Hello friends, and welcome to another WSIB Truth Matters with Joe Machado on this beautiful Friday afternoon. I'm sure you're looking forward to the weekend, as I am too, and I've already got started with my weekend. It's supposed to be a nice one. Anyway, I wanted to talk about a subject matter that has come up frequently over the past 30 years, dealing with the WSIB. And one of them is, the topic is, making the case for payments of loss of earnings benefits, arrears benefits. It could be arrears benefits for loss of earnings. It could be arrears benefits for future economic loss, for a case that you're dealing with where you may or may not have been entitled to future economic loss, or pension benefits, pension increase as a result of reassessment. So things of that nature, independent living allowance. So these are all different types of benefits that you would or could conceivably be arguing to get paid arrears. But generally, that only happens under two instances. One of them would be that your claim was denied and you had to appeal that decision for initial entitlement. And however long that takes to get through the appeal process, I'm sure at the end of the day, once the case is resolved, if you have to go all the way to the tribunal, for example, and it takes 2, 3, 4 years or could be longer, you want to make sure that you're going to be paid the entire time that you were not able to work as a result of that injury and the initial entitlement that you're requesting. The other situation under which you would be seeking arrears benefits would be if your benefits for some reason were stopped. And generally that's due to one of two reasons. One, it could be that the WSIB has determined that you're not cooperating with the return to work process. And they have a very broad list of reasons why they could deem you uncooperative. And the other one is if you're not cooperating in medical treatment or assessments. And if you find yourself in a situation where your benefits have stopped, your loss of earnings benefits have been stopped, or were reduced for any one of these reasons, obviously you would appeal it, and that would be the prudent thing to do. And eventually, if you succeed in your appeal, you want to get paid retroactively. So you want to get those benefits paid from the date that they stop paying you. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky, and I'm going to give you some information that might be helpful. Before I do that, let's look at what the WSIB has in their policy as to some of the reasons that your benefits could be reduced or stopped, and what they call your duty to cooperate. So, according to their policy, a worker who's receiving benefits under the insurance plan or who is entitled to do so is required to provide the WSIB with any information necessary to adjudicate the claim, cooperate in healthcare measures the WSIB considers appropriate, undergo an examination by a healthcare professional selected and paid for by the WSIB, and undergo an examination by a health professional selected and paid for by the employer if directed by the WSIB, and cooperate in all aspects of the return to work process, including return to work assessments and plans. If a worker does not fulfill these obligations, the worker's benefits may be reduced or suspended. Keeping in mind that the WSIB has a duty by law to inform you in writing, it's generally their warning that your benefits may be suspended for one of those reasons or more. And at that point, then you have to determine whether or not you're able to satisfy the reason that they're stating that you've been uncooperative or not, in which case you want to indicate to them that you want to cooperate so that you can avoid your loss of earnings benefits from being stopped. I don't agree with a couple of them there, but they wield the knife, they have the cake, and they can cut it in whatever fucking manner they want, even if it's unfair, or even if it hasn't been handled properly. Talking about the employer for a moment. Yes, if an employer requests that you be assessed by a doctor, they have to request that from the WSIB. The WSIB has to approve it. And if the WSIB approves it, you would be required to attend this assessment. Otherwise, that could give reason for your benefits being reduced or stopped. Because the employer has a vested interest in your case, and the employer is a party to your case and has certain rights. The one that deals with the WSIB wanting you to be assessed by a medical professional of their choice, I have a problem with that. If you can arrange for an assessment from your doctor to have you assessed with any number of specialists or specialty clinics, then why would you have to go to a doctor that they've selected? Your doctors are licensed under the Law Society or the College of Physicians and Surgeons, and are regulated by the college to ensure that they maintain themselves in good standing. So if your doctors are in good standing, why would it have to be a doctor that the WSIB decides? But that's the way it is. I think it's bullshit. You all know how I feel about the WSIB sticking their fucking nose when it comes into your healthcare treatment, especially when you're being treated by doctors that are licensed and in good standing with the college. Yeah. But it's the law. And unfortunately, even if you appeal the decision and you refuse, you'd find yourself in an appeal situation, and you may find that at the end of the day, you might win that appeal, but sometimes it's just easier to give in. I can't believe I just said that, but yeah, you got to be careful when you're dealing with these pricks. Here's what they consider some of the legitimate reasons why you shouldn't cooperate, or that are acceptable for not cooperating. They consider a legitimate reason. Workers are not penalized for non-cooperation if there's a legitimate reason, and their legitimate reasons include, but are not limited to, unexpected illness, accidents, severe weather conditions, compelling personal reasons such as a death in the family, and the actions or inactions of a relevant third party such as Canada Revenue Agency if tax records are involved. Don't really know what the fuck that means, but anyway. These are some of the reasons that they could accept as a bona fide reason for not cooperating to the extent that they expect you to. So there you have it. And so what do you do? What do you do if they believe, based on whatever medical and looking at their crystal ball and the fat cats and all that shit, they've determined that, hey, you're ready to go back to work here in some capacity, or you're ready to participate in work reintegration services, and so if you choose not to, we're going to reduce your benefits and stop the benefits. That's eventually what happens. Once they put the gun here, you're a millisecond away before they pull the trigger. The trigger being stopping your benefits. Well, you could stand your ground, and what I would suggest that you do is that you have a sit down with your doctor or specialist, whomever you're being treated by at the time, and explain exactly what's going on, what they want you to do, in a return to work situation. Because if they're asking you to be involved with return to work services, and it's not necessarily to get you into work, but exploring various options, you wouldn't have a leg to stand on to not cooperate, because they look at it as you sitting at home or cooperating in certain activities that aren't physical, but to help you identify potential job objectives. They're not going to stand for you just sitting at home. It's not going to happen. And if you go through appeal and you go to the tribunal, I can tell you 99 times out of 100, they won't accept that either. So you need to have a legitimate reason, and that reason needs to be medical. And the medical needs to be able to support that for whatever reason. And I'm talking about your compensable disability, not other factors that may be going on concurrently from a medical standpoint, but I'm talking specifically about your compensable injury and your compensable restrictions. The doctor needs to be able to demonstrate beyond any doubt, and specifically why, that it could be harmful for some reason, and it needs to be very detailed for the WSIB to look at it and say, okay, yeah, all right, that makes sense. We'll hold things off for a bit. Or chances are they're going to say no, because this is what they do. But now I'm thinking ahead, because every time that I'm providing guidance to someone, I'm always encouraging to cooperate as best as they can, but with the strategy that if ultimately they're not able to, they're involved in an appeal situation and have to go all the way to the tribunal. You want to be able to have medical to be able to support your stance as to why you weren't participating in return to work activities or medical treatment that was being recommended. That information will be needed at the tribunal because they do scrutinize that very closely. When you're dealing with an issue of retroactive benefits for any period of time, the tribunal is going to assess it very, very closely to determine whether or not they should allow for loss of earnings benefits. And obviously the strategy is always to go for full benefits, but understanding that they could allow partial loss of earnings benefits, and they could actually allow partial loss of earnings benefits for specific periods of time and not necessarily everything that you're going after. Again, I talked yesterday, or my first of 3-part series on preparing for a hearing. I talked about making sure that you identify the issues under appeal very, very carefully. That's one of those instances where you need to make sure that you're requesting full LOE benefits and be very specific as to the entire period of time that you're requesting those benefits to be paid. So it is a sticky situation, and it does happen. It happens a lot. And I don't want to scare the shit out of you, but I want to make sure that you understand what their expectations are. And I've gone up against them for clients for every possible reason you could imagine. And these are the things that I look for, that I always look for. And then once you've done this for as long as I have, you get to see sort of what the parameters are that I don't really care for the WSIB's Appeal Services Division, but the tribunal, some of the parameters that they look at as far as considering paying retroactive benefits. The other thing is, if you are involved in medical treatment that the WSIB may not necessarily agree is a medical treatment program, but if you are being assessed by doctors or specialists and you're taking different kinds of treatment like acupuncture or chiropractic treatment or various phases of physiotherapy, all of these things make sure that you keep detailed records of those things and that you're able to recall that if you're in a hearing situation, and that you have reports to demonstrate that you were there and why you were there, what the purpose was, because everything needs to be able to support the fact that you're doing everything you can to improve your condition, but not necessarily looking for a positive medical report, because they look at that too. They're looking at whether you're just looking for a report that's going to agree with you, or you're legitimately working with your doctors and attending assessments and treatment for the purpose of getting better. Because there's a big difference in those two, and they know that, and they look at it very, very closely. All right, friends, but it does happen if you have everything in place and all your ducks in a row, as they say. The chances for success are a lot greater than if you don't. So that does it for today. I hope that this was informative for you. And as always, I'm going to leave you with Mr. Smiley's tip of the day. And here's what Mr. Smiley says on this topic. He says, if you do not believe you can cooperate in return to work efforts, make sure you have very specific medical evidence to support your position. Because without that, it's going to be a very lengthy, strenuous uphill battle that may lead to zero, and I don't want that for you. I absolutely do not want that for you, because I don't want the WSIB to win ever. They already win enough, the pricks. I don't want them to win anymore. So you need to be equipped to be able to deal with it. Okay, so if you have any questions about this video, by all means, send me an email. My email is in the video description below. And let me know a little bit about your situation and what your concerns are. And I will do my best to answer your questions. Coming up on Wednesday is part 2 of the preparing for a hearing case. And in part 2, I'm actually going to talk about the nuts and bolts of preparing for a hearing and what I used to do for the countless of hearings that I attended over 30 years to prepare, to make sure that you put your best foot forward. So, that's coming up on Wednesday. I'm going to talk about how I did a case audit and an action plan, and then devised the strategy for the appeal. I'm going to talk about tribunal jurisprudence and how that can be helpful, similar cases to demonstrate how certain cases were looked at, which could be favorable for the appeal, expert information, how to obtain it, if you're going to provide it through evidence at an oral hearing, or if you're going to provide submissions in writing from experts, and of course, an itemized list of actions that need to be taken and the timelines, so that when the appeal comes around, you're good to go, you're confident, because that's important. You're confident going to the appeal and talking about your case. That's crucial. All right, friends, so that's coming up on Wednesday, but there will be another video on Monday. I hope you have a great weekend. It looks like it's going to be a nice one. And this is my salute to the WSIB, as usual, because they love to hear about me. And I love to salute them as well in this very special way. If you're new to the channel, I invite you to become a subscriber. It's free. All the information I provide here costs you nothing. If you need help with your case, hands-on help with an appeal or any particular situation, please visit my website, WSIBsettlements.com. We have tools there that used for over 30 years, handling WSIB cases, very successful, over $300 million in settlements. So we have a lot to offer and to help you if you have a situation that requires assistance right now, or if you need it in the future. Keep us in mind. And to my subscribers, thank you for sharing my videos. I appreciate that very much. And as always, take care.